Hi everyone, and welcome to my video on my 2005 Anakin Revenge of the Sith Master Replicas lightsaber. This lightsaber has been fully converted with a Makoto V3GX blade, LED string blade. For those of you who don't know, Makoto make incredibly bright LED string blades to the point where it looks like exactly like a real lightsaber on camera and also in person as well. So basically I want to go through all the modifications that have been done to complete this build. So the hilt is a 2005 model. I think you could just probably about pick that up from the pommel there, the insignia on the bottom. So basically, due to the age of the hilt being over 10 years old, there's a couple of like small blemishes, but nothing major. Mainly just there's a ding here, which is like basically a dark scratch mark, unfortunately, and there's a couple of like tiny bits around the hilt. All in all, it's in very good condition for the age, and you know, at a distance or for photos or whatever, you would not be able to tell. So first off, there's been quite a lot of modifications done to the hilt itself, and extra parts purchased from the custom saber shop in order to make this not only screen accurate, as possible, but also durable for dueling as well. So the actual all the plastic components from the original stock model have been replaced with metal components, and some replica Graflex parts have been used as well. Again, for those of you who don't know, Graflex is the company which made the original camera flash handles that they used for the lightsaber props in A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and in The Force Awakens. In Episode 3, they actually machined a hilt. It wasn't actually a Graflex flash gun that was used, but obviously it is meant to chronologically be Luke's lightsaber that obviously Obi-Wan picked up after his duel with Anakin on Mustafar. So first off, what we have, instead of the original gold button that was on the stock, we have an actual Graflex glass eye thumb screw, okay, with a gold-plated cap over it, so it looks movie accurate. The reason why this has been replaced with a Graflex glass eye is because this blade holder here, okay, this whole section which extends about this far into the hilt, has been replaced with a custom saber shop blade holder, which is metal and not plastic. So if you did want to duel with it, it is now durable for dueling. The brass pins that were originally plastic have been replaced with the Anakin Revenge of the Sith brass pins. I don't know if you can quite pick that up on camera there, but these are metal and they screw right into the metal blade holder perfectly. Around the back, what would be the Graflex red button on a normal Graflex, which is a slightly different colour on the Revenge of the Sith model, is actually a Graflex red button thumb screw as well. However, this has been replaced. The cap has been replaced with a brass cap to make it more movie accurate and more in line with the actual Revenge of the Sith model. The difference is mainly sort of in colour, being the sort of gold and the brass opposed to the sort of chrome and the red button on the original Graflex. So that's the sort of hilt modifications that have happened externally. So you know, everything is I'd like to think movie accurate, and also all, you know, it being all metal parts is obviously you know, made for dueling and makes it feel more authentic as well, because you know, there's nothing sort of worse of having a really good looking saber and then some cheap plastic part on it, which is, you know, thankfully been replaced now. What I've also included is a KR Sabers Graflex style blade plug. This is to ensure that, one, it looks the part when a blade is not being used, and also to protect the actual blade socket that the LED string blade plugs into from any, you know, dust and whatever. But it looks brilliant, and it really goes well with the you know, the gold button and all the other hardware parts. Another modification that I've done, which I'm particularly proud of, is on the activation box. I've replaced the original gold circuit card, which was plastic, with an actual laser etched metal circuit card, and this is where the recharge port is actually housed for the 18650 lithium ion battery, which the whole saber runs off. If you slide the circuit card to the left here, it will reveal the recharge port there, which is a really cool feature, and what I think makes this saber unique. I haven't actually seen any Makoto conversions on this particular hilt, which is quite so detailed. So I'm really, really proud of that, and it just neatens the whole thing up. So if you ever need to recharge it, you just slide the activation card and plug in the recharge plug, and away you go. The actual card itself is secured by several tiny magnets along sort of strategic places on the circuit card itself. It looks a little bit ugly under there because this is where sort of all the wiring is behind it. And I use the original black kind of card underneath it to hold everything, but of course you don't see that when the circuit card is across. And if you just slide it and just reveal the port there, it's not going to look particularly bad. So again, that's another really nice feature which I'm particularly proud of. So one thing I forgot to mention a second ago is the reason why this gold button has been replaced with a glass eye and thumb screw underneath it, is that the holes have actually been tapped out in the metal blade holder from the custom saber shop, which fit the I think it's the 1032 thread for these thumb screws from the Graflex replica parts, and basically this acts as the retention screw for the blade socket, which I will show you in just a moment. But basically what I wanted to do is make sure that all parts could be threaded as much as possible. So I used very minimal glue. In fact, the only glue I really used was to glue the magnets into the strip underneath the activation card. So basically if someone wanted to take this apart and modify things themselves, then they actually could do. But yeah, so basically if you have the saber, you don't really want to play around with this too much because that actually retains the the tension for the actual blade socket itself. The actual the red button screw section here, this has actually been filed down and glued in place. The actual thread, it is threaded, so it's not like it's just glued on the top, so it is very secure, but the problem I found was that the actual blade holder itself did not have thick enough metal on the back end side to actually tap enough threads for the actual for the screw to actually be able to retain the blade, as originally that was going to be the blade retention screw. So unfortunately that did have to get glued in. However, the blade retention screw and the retention screw for the blade holder is actually this button here, this head screw here, which I will demonstrate in just a moment. So as I said, the blade is fully removable, and obviously the blade plug slides in and out if you want to put the blade in. So let's give it a whirl. So just before I actually put it in, this is just what the Makoto blade looks like. So you have all these pins, very much like a sort of microphone cable that slots into the blade socket. It's very easy to line up. It does have to go in at the exact right angle, but it's, as I said, really easy to line up, and I'll show you a neat way of doing that in just a second. But the blade is, I think, 37 inch, so pretty standard for a lightsaber blade. Never been jeweled with, and as I said, it's extremely bright and yeah, incredibly exciting every time it activates. A small notch has been drilled in the actual base of the blade itself, which you do not see, that the retention screw sits in. So if you swing it around as hard as possible or even duel with it, it really is not going anywhere. So as I said, this is for all intents and purposes a saber that you can choreograph full contact or full speed choreography or sword choreography with. Cool, so let's get the blade plug out and get the blade in. Don't have to do it all the way, just enough so that the blade plug actually falls out there. I've actually tapped some screws for the blade plug itself as well, an actual hole for the blade plug itself. Reason for doing this is just so that if I put the blade plug in, the screw wasn't sticking out, because as I said, this one, it doesn't actually screw into the blade itself, it's just a notch. So I wanted to make sure if you wanted to put the blade plug in there as well, the screws didn't actually stick out and it was able just to go straight through. So with the actual notch itself, what you need to do is just line up where the notch is with just in line of where the actual screw is, and that should just slide in, give it a little wiggle, and you'll feel it kind of sink into the socket. Do up the retention screw. Doesn't need to be massively tight, just so it's flush to the body. Oop. Okay, and away we go. This is in a brightly lit room at home. As you can tell, it is incredibly bright. It's a really cool pulsing effect that the 2.0 sound card from Makoto has when the blade is turned on. Let's see if I can get some swings activated here. Swing's not that sensitive. They work really well when you're outside and you've got room to swing around, but actual indoors is slightly harder. Sometimes it actually kind of is a bit temperamental on the angle you're holding it, but as you can see, very spectacular looking saber. And off. I'll do an activation of where it is in the dark. So, not fully in the dark, but you can still see how bright that is. Got the swings working better now. So as you can see, incredibly bright. Just looks absolutely phenomenal in person as well. It is so spectacular when it actually turns on. So yeah, as I said, you know, I'm incredibly proud of this. It really does look, you know, like the saber that they use in the films, both in terms of brightness and the actual hilt itself. And the hilt itself is heavy. Which is really nice. Like it actually feels like it's a, you know, it could potentially be a real lightsaber. It's got a real weight to it, which is really cool, but not too heavy so that it's uncomfortable to wear on a belt. It includes the original CoverTech knob if you did want to clip it to a belt. I'll see if I can get some better swings going. Unfortunately, because Makoto soundboards don't actually have the clash function. This was just the Makoto Blade Kit that I purchased. It wasn't taken from an actual Makoto lightsaber, so unfortunately you only have the actual swings, no clashes, and there's also no flash on clash. So you've pretty much seen all the features that it actually sports. But as I said, it's I mean, I do love in-hilt LED blades, LED lightsabers. They're fantastic, brilliant for dueling, but Makoto I find they just look so good. They look so real. Obviously, as you can see with the blade in, it's extremely bright, but I wasn't actually able to get decent swing sounds going just because it does take a bit more movement, you know, with the blade in, and this is actually quite a small room, so I couldn't really risk you know, swinging it around too much. So obviously you can use the saber and activate it without the blade in. So I'll see if I can get some better swing sounds going. And off. One other thing I was really proud of is I actually managed to wire the switch in so we could use the same greebly on the top here to turn it on. Like that. And slide back to turn off. Cool. So yeah, so here, this is my video on my Makoto conversion for my Anakin Return of the Sith lightsaber. It was an incredibly fun build to do, and you know, I can't recommend Makoto enough for the quality of their electronics. One thing that's you know, that could have been better I guess, would have been, you know, having the ability to have some clash sounds with it. But it is what it is, and it's an incredibly fun saber to own, and as I said, incredibly fun to build as well. So thank you very much for watching. Leave a comment and a like, and let me know what you think.